Yeah, I think for R2P to actually mean something, it has to make a difference in the lives of people who are sort of otherwise marked for death, you know. And I think coming out of the experience of Srebrenica or the experience of Rwanda, that should be our benchmark. Our benchmark is international community failure. So I'd like to think that even though there's still mass atrocities in the world, we're certainly getting better at, on the one hand, preventing them from happening in the first place. And when they do happen, that we're getting better at responding. And I think that's hopefully the case in somewhere like Central African Republic or in South Sudan, where we've seen mass atrocities, but we've also seen an international community respond reasonably quickly, trying to stop that from taking place. But it's an imperfect world, as we know, but hopefully R2P is making a difference. Sure, I think the problem in Syria is not so much R2P as we have a Security Council in which 5 members of that Security Council have the right to veto anything that the international community decides to do. And of course, 2 of those permanent members have vetoed now 4 resolutions which have tried to impose accountability and tried to actually stop mass atrocities in Syria. And that is by far the greatest tragedy, I think, of our times. Having said that, I think it's a big contrast with the past. So what most people don't know, for example, is in 1982, the current President Assad's father killed about 20,000 people in Hama without so much as the international community issuing an angry press release. Whereas, you know, we've seen a whole range of states around the world come out, publicly condemn what's happening, on both sides, by the way. Some armed groups, rebel groups, are also committing atrocities, not just ISIL, some others as well, although the biggest amount of crimes are still with the government. So I think we have seen a change, but we've got a 20th century UN that's struggling to deal with 21st century problems. Yeah, I think veto reform is a very important reform that we need, and I think Syria has brought that into stark relief. But I think, you know, for the first time really since 1945, we're seeing the whole issue of veto rights and veto restraint, certainly in mass atrocity situations, being discussed widely by the UN membership. The French, of course, from inside the P5, the Permanent Five themselves, have raised the issue, and I certainly hope that by the time of the 70th anniversary of the UN next year, that we'll have a statement of principles by the Permanent Five, which says that no permanent member will use their veto, should use their veto in any mass atrocity situation. I think it'll be hard work to get there. Maybe not all the P5 will agree, but I think this is an issue that they can no longer ignore. No, I think the French have done a lot in this area. I am certainly very supportive of the French initiative, and I think, you know, they've come out very publicly and said that you know, they believe that no permanent member should veto in any mass atrocity situation. I think they're still trying to figure out exactly how to try and take this initiative forward, whether it be via a code of conduct or whether it be via a statement of principles. But I think the meeting that happened in New York during the General Assembly 2 weeks ago with 25 foreign ministers and a whole range of other states in attendance, and I was lucky enough to speak on behalf of my own organization and Human Rights Watch and Amnesty and a few others, and put forward a civil society view as well. I think we see a gathering kind of momentum around the idea that surely, you know, if the Security Council can't agree to all things, and we know that's not going to happen, but surely here is one thing that they can agree on, that they should never use their veto in any situation where people anywhere in the world are subjected to the crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, mass war crimes, and ethnic cleansing.